Yes, the first thing they need to know is there is no job in Russia. And if you get
Uh-huh.
to Russia, so Kenyans are everywhere, really. If you go to Australia, you go to South Africa, you go to West Africa, the more conservative countries such as Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Lebanon, Iran, Iraq, the behavior is just the same.
Hey, good people, good citizens, and followers of the Citizens Micah podcast. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good everything from wherever you are watching this podcast from. Welcome back to our conversations. We say every time that the conversations that we are doing here at this podcast are conversations that inform decision making. They are conversations that shape narratives and also opinions in our country, and especially on the governance of the country and the well-being of the citizens of this beautiful country, Kenya. So karibuni tena. My name is Tricia Wayua, as usual, and today we are looking at something quite different. Yeah, we've been talking about politics and so forth, but today I just want us to switch off kidogo alafu tuingie katika maswala ya human trafficking. Recently, we have seen what has been happening. But mark you, one thing that you need to know is that human trafficking is not something that just started the other day. It is something that has always been there. So today, I'm privileged to have one Paul Adhoch. So this is a person that I've known. He has really fought human trafficking in our country. So in light of what is happening right now, I thought it wise that we have him today on this conversation, that he may tell us what is happening and what he thinks about the government's efforts to fight human trafficking, and actually help us understand what is really happening. Why do we find our young people in the battlefront in other foreign countries? Why do we have our young people suffering in other countries, yet we have a government in place, yet we have other human rights organizations in our country? So karibu sana, Paul.
Thank you, Tricia. My name is Paul Adhoch, as you've just heard. I'm the Executive Director, Trace Kenya. Trace Kenya is a counter-trafficking in persons organization. We are based in the capital city of Mombasa, working across 6 counties of the coast and one county in northern Kenya, that's Garissa County. Uh, our work is structured around three contexts. The first one is a context of child protection, meaning that we fight human trafficking through uh, child trafficking in all its forms and typologies. And then we fight human trafficking through gender lenses. So we have a gender justice programming. And finally, we have a migration or migrant labor component within which we fight human trafficking. So that's basically what Trace Kenya is all about.
Okay, I see the three major arms, one dealing with the child labor, and then the other one gender, and now the final one is the migration. The labor migration. Yeah, and actually, maybe our interest today will be majorly on the labor migration and especially the transnational, yes, across different countries. I remember in the Gen Z's protest in 2024, they came out and protested against. Actually, one of the issues was the lack of employment. That is one of the reasons why the young people were in the streets. And then after that, what came out was that, first of all, our country has almost 70% of young people. And again, what also came out is the fact that there is a youth badge in our country. What also came out is that the young people in Kenya are learned. But then now, another thing that came out is the fact that we have so many young people going abroad to do cheap labor in other countries, which do not really match their levels of education or their levels of expertise. So maybe you can also help us understand, because I know you've interacted with so many people, even before we come to the returnees. I don't know what we call them, the survivors of human trafficking. Even before we reach to that level, please help us understand how these things happen.
Thank you once again. The context of trafficking on migrant labor road is in this sense. One, you've just mentioned that Kenya has a youth bulge, and this is not unique to Kenya. It's across the globe, and particularly in Africa. There are, particularly African countries, there are numerous countries that has a huge population of youth. Kenyan youth have an additional edge in that quite a number of them are properly well educated. They are schooled, even as their education does not necessarily match the industrial needs. Most youth and most industrialists will tell you, and the entrepreneurs will tell you that there's a big skill gap between what we go through in school and what is available in the market. So that youth bulge in itself has advantages, of course, and disadvantages. Now, in the Kenyan sense, the advantage is that opportunities then can arise for Kenyans to grab right across the globe. And it is government policy now to allow Kenyan youth with requisite skills to get jobs across the globe. And that policy is edged through the National Employment Authority, which then allows citizens of Kenya who would like to get jobs anywhere across the globe to then work through the process and get jobs in an orderly and safe manner. On the other hand, when there's a youth bulge and lack of job opportunity in the country, there are people who take advantage of young people. They tell them there are opportunities everywhere out there, and many youth do not do due diligence, and they find themselves victims of trafficking in the labor market. And this is not just the non-skilled youth, like happens in the past, but also very skilled young people. Good examples happen where Kenyans are finding themselves in the scam market in the Far East, particularly in Myanmar and Thailand. And we've had quite a number of them who are very well skilled in ICT, graduate universities, architects, and so on and so forth, finding themselves in that scam. The other one is very low skilled young people finding themselves victims of slavery and slave-like work conditions in the Middle East. This is very common because that's where, for a historical reason, Kenyans have been finding job opportunity in the past. The only way that we get Kenya government to protect youth is to sign what we call bilateral labor agreements with the destination countries, and therefore then offer some modicum of respectability in the job, and then follow up on what has to be protective measures for young people.
Even before you continue, just hold on there. Even before you continue, so far, do you think that as a country we've had enough all the required bilateral labor agreements, especially for these countries that you are talking about?
We do not, and we do not. Secondly, the bilateral labor agreements are not security to protection gain for young people anywhere. These are just acknowledgement that we have young people working in your country and therefore offer them as much support as possible. They are what you'll call diplomatic nudge, that, hey, between us and you, we have 300,000 young people working in your country. But it is not a framework for any protection measures in any way. So in a sense, it's not really a protective measure, but it's an acknowledgement by country to the next that our citizens are in the country in large numbers. So that's, but the numbers are few. They are less than 20 something.
Oh, okay.
Right across the globe. Kenyans are close to 4 million right across the globe.
Wow.
And they're literally everywhere on earth.
Oh.
It is not quite working outside. It's 4 million Kenyans abroad.
Abroad.
Abroad, yeah. This could be children in school, young people, studying, staying with their parents, people on scholarship, people, just on short visits on their way back. That's the number. But people on protracted years abroad is estimated at nearly the same number, with majority of them basically living in the US, the UK, the traditional countries, the US, the UK, and just close to the known number of about 300,000 in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. But if you mix them, if you aggregate Kenyans outside of Kenya, are just about 4 million.
Okay.
So, and they're doing different things. But Kenyans working predominantly are still in the US and the UK. The rest of Europe and the Middle East. Those are the Kenyans working abroad. There are also Kenyans working in Eastern Africa region, and there are pretty many in Uganda. There were many in Tanzania, but progressively the numbers is going down for reasons of political. A lot of Kenyans feel they are politically targeted.
Okay.
So Kenyans are everywhere, really. If you go to Australia, you go to South Africa, you go to West Africa, you'll find Kenyans there, and many of them that are there for professional reasons. They're working, they're hard workers. They are known as very hard workers, and they are tenacious and pretty resilient. So we do have them.
Okay, we've had cases of people working in the Middle East, especially the young ladies working as in their households. So we have seen some of them coming home. Some say that they are sick. They are not being given that humanly treatment while they are in those places. So you say the agreements that we have so far, they cannot really protect our people.
Absolutely. Indeed, the biggest challenge is not quite the bilateral agreements with countries. The biggest challenge is the individuals that employ Kenyans abroad. As long as their behavior and manners do not change, as long as they do not treat their servants and workers professionally, if they consider them chattel and slaves, then nothing much will change on the ground. And that's why human rights organization like Trace Kenya comes in to say, on the Kenyan side, we could teach our citizens prior to departure on what to do, how to behave, what to dress up, and how to act in front, for sensitivities of culture in the countries of destination. But as long as the recipient countries, individuals, do not consider our acts any meaningful, we shall continue having those acts of disrespect and abuse, insults that are reported, particularly in the Middle East. You see, even in the Middle East, the countries such as Dubai and Qatar and other UAE countries, the behavior has changed drastically, and they treat the workers fairly well. But in the more conservative countries such as Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Lebanon, Iran, Iraq, the behavior is just the same. So this will take time, and Kenyans working in those countries also know the same. It's the same case we have acts of racism in the US and in most of Europe. It will stay like that for a long while. Though we're in the 2026, people still believe we're 1400 and something by virtue of color alone. So these are acts that will take a little bit of time to go through. The advantage of having the bigger labor agreements and bilateral agreements done is that most of those countries of destination are also signatories to ILO conventions. So then we can name and shame them in the ILO convention that they are not treating their foreign workers with respect.
Yeah.
So that's the advantage.
Oh, okay. So now, you touched something around the employment agencies, those people who are taking young people outside the country, or Kenyans outside the country. Why is it so hard that the government cannot really regulate these agencies? Because we have had cases whereby someone goes and signs an agreement, a contract to work abroad, and the moment they arrive in that country, they realize whatever they agreed while they were still in the country is different from whatever work they are supposed to do there.
Yeah, that's one area we as organizations fighting human trafficking have been trying to grapple with. They're saying if an agent signs off on you, then they must be responsible for you as if they are quasi-employer. So, and to that regard, we've had quite some successes. For instance, if today you are stuck anywhere in the Middle East, we will just follow up with the Kenyan agent who sent you there, and they'll make sure you are safely brought back home. But this doesn't happen all the time because Kenyans also get employed through foreign agents. You know, these are non-Kenyan agents who are in jurisdiction outside our purview. Secondly, there are Kenyans who get employed online. You know, they just get some online application, they fill everything in, they are sent a tourist visa, and they fly off. There's very little you can do to help them when they are stuck, except look for Kenyan embassy in the nearest country on that country to assist them come back home.
Oh, okay, yeah. What about because I've had people saying that, like especially those who are in Russia, those some of the people saying that they were given contracts that they cannot read in their language there, and that person does not have an interpreter, somebody who can interpret and tell them what the contract really talks about.
Precisely what I'm telling you now, that when you sign a contract, I mean, you should understand what you're signing. You could be signing a death warrant. Just to talk a bit about the Russian situation, way back in 2023, we got some information that Kenyan women were being lured into Russia, purportedly to support the industries in making this fighting drones, and we were able to create some awareness around it, particularly Kenya and Uganda, and the matter subsided. But then the next year, 2024, we started hearing of Kenyan men being recruited to Russia, right from Kenya, straight from Kenya, being recruited. That if you've ever had a background in military or armed forces, then there was opportunity for you to go and fight in the Middle East. Quite a number of young people. Indeed, the government has said about 200 Kenyans applied for it and got it, and only 80 of them have come back. So there are about 120 who are either disappeared or are missing, up to date, and that's a large number of young people. And it's only this year, 2026, that we start hearing actual families talking about cases, or rather, we started hearing last year of cases where young people are actually missing or have gotten themselves harmed, or some have escaped and back here. And if you listen to the circumstances around which they ended up in the Middle East, they all talk about just what I've mentioned: lack of due diligence, signing documents that you didn't understand, or being sent to Qatar for a different assignment and a different contract, and someone lures you right from Qatar that there's a better opportunity elsewhere. Now, the moment you take this better opportunity elsewhere, you must be more alert. But does not diminish the fact that as a country, we are still responsible for our citizens that are stuck anywhere, wherever they are. So that goes really to Ministry of Foreign Affairs to follow up on.
Let me understand. The 200 that you are talking about, was it an official communication? And is it different from these other, like the survivors that we are seeing people coming back to the country? Or that is now an additional number on top of the 200?
The 200 are specifically young Kenyans fighting in Russia. And this number was given by Ministry of Foreign Affairs some time back.
Yes.
The ministry also said that 80 of them came back. Of the 80, we at Trace Kenya have had the privilege of meeting three of them, and they're badly traumatized. Many may have thought it's just the regular war you have here and there, but apparently the Russian-Ukraine war must be something out of this world. So they are badly traumatized. They've come back without the monies they had. Some are basically mentally injured, badly mentally injured.
So I see, like now, the returnees, all the survivors who have come back to the country, because I've heard people say that there are issues of the integration back to the community and the acceptance and how they will be treated, and especially by the government of Kenya. Maybe have you heard any cases of some of them fearing to come out and even speak because they don't know how they will be received back?
Yeah, it's absolutely, because they're obviously of security concern, because they went to fight a foreign war, and under circumstances that perhaps they were not very able to deal with themselves. So that marks us one. Secondly, they themselves are scared because they've come out of, in many cases, they've escaped from a
Death.
situation they'd already
Yes.
signed. So they've escaped, and therefore they're also scared that they could. When they reach out to us, they're basically just seeking help, a bit of mental help, some medical help. But many times they're not really willing to come out and present themselves in public, and that's pretty understandable because they've also had mental trauma and they didn't come back with what they were promised to. So the family does not fit. The family is happy to have you back, definitely,
Yes.
but the families are not happy to have a crippled person back. So
Oh.
those are the tragic circumstances that families find themselves in.
So how about the government now?
The government has promised, and I've had the Prime Cabinet Secretary say that he'll personally go to Russia and pursue the matter and resolve the case of the numbers that he knows, maybe the 120 remaining. If they've passed on, then the families will have to come to closure with the matter. If they're still alive, they'll be brought back home, and hopefully the government will make some measure of rehabilitation to them, which indeed is a responsibility of a responsible government.
So is there anything that maybe as Kenyans, we really, especially the young people who are seeking for these opportunities, is there something that they need to know?
Yes, the first thing they need to know is there is no job in Russia. And if you get
Uh-huh.
to Russia,
I
there's
like
no
how
job.
you're putting it. You can say that again.
There is no job in Russia for both male and female. So please don't get yourself assigned to those places. Chances are, if you're male and you're healthy, you'll end up in the front line without,
Proper training.
involuntarily. You'll not be there in any voluntary way. So that's that. Kenya is not the only country having their citizens there. We've heard of other African countries also on the front line. But the Kenya case is, the number perhaps is a little worrying. So that's what I'll tell young Kenyans. So don't go there. Secondly, there's no job in the Far East, Thailand, Myanmar, and so on and so forth. There isn't. Don't
What are
go
you
there.
saying?
You'll find yourself in a scam camp, and you'll just be doing criminal work at the end of the day. There are jobs, of course, and follow the National Employment Authority platform, especially young people, and you'll find the existing jobs, and those jobs are available to you. But again, as I said, there's no guarantee that destination you're going, you may not suffer abuse, racial, sexual, or insult or verbal insults. They'll happen in some of the countries you go to, including some of the very democratic countries across the globe. You may witness some racial instances. It happens, but they may not necessarily be at the workplace. The workplace, they are likely to respect you. If you're in Western Europe or Western world, in the US, in Australia, they'll take good care of you. In countries such as other African countries, they'll respect your professionalism.
What about the agencies, those who are taking people for these employments for this in these other foreign countries?
Yeah, my biggest fear about the I don't know how to call it fear, but my biggest, perhaps I haven't understood why.
Okay, I think that is fair enough. I don't know whether there's anything that you need to add on whatever you have just said. It is just clear that we need to be so cautious. We need to be so careful when we are signing these deals, and also if the agents also play their part, and also the government, yeah, plays its part. I think we will at least reduce, if not clear, all these issues.
Thank you very much. I just want to add that the one thing is that young citizens of Kenya should not, at any moment, be lied to that their circumstance is very unique. It is an African circumstance. The labor bulge happens in different countries at different times. The only difference is how those countries have ended up taking advantage of the youth bulge. We've had a serious youth bulge in Japan in the past. In the most recent past, we've had it in China. Those countries diverse very different ways in which they manage it. In China, for example, the Chinese government simply made their country very attractive to big businesses across the globe to come and manufacture in their home country and at cheap. And then in the process, they were able to take in the technology. And now China is a manufacturing country of the world. It is something you can emulate and perhaps easily so, because Kenya has an advantage of a big number of young people that are learned. The skill may be mismatched for now, but it doesn't take a long time to reintegrate Kenyan citizens into the new skills. And Kenya as a government should intentionally take advantage of the youth bulge, the young population that speaks fairly good English, and the fact that the globe is in need for that kind of expertise in cheaper labor points to make manufacturing available in Kenya and job opportunities available. And these job opportunities should not just be any job; they should be quality jobs. And I'm sure manufacturers across the globe will be interested in working in our country.
Okay, okay. I think that's fair enough. So, Paul, I say you have good policies. You're doing a very good job. So, are we expecting that maybe one of these fine days you're gonna find yourself in the governance of the country?
Certainly, I'm interested in local politics. You know, having been in activism, as the country calls us, but basically in the social justice space, as I call it now, for this long. And now that I've done bits of farming and stuff, I'm keenly interested in joining local politics at a senatorial stage. And
Oh,
I've mentioned this in the past. I'll be interested in taking on Oburu Odinga in Siaya.
you're going for that seat for the youth leader.
Yes, the total orphan, the youth leader, the party leader
Yes.
of ODM. Now it's ODM Oburu.
Yeah.
I'm repping Oburu. But that's it. That's where you'll find me. I'll give it a shot, and I'm sure it will be a sure bet.
So I know we have people from Siaya listening or watching or viewing this podcast. So mumesikia hapo, there is an aspirant here who would want to come and work for you people. Yeah, so think about it. So I think I'm gonna look for you so that now we can talk politics. Yeah. I'm gonna look for you so we talk politics. So, but for now, it was about the human trafficking, which I think you've really broken it down very well for Kenyans to understand. Kwa wale wako na masikio, nadhani kwamba watasikia. Kwa wale wanaona kwa macho, nadhani kwamba wataona kwa macho na kuelewa what is really happening. Usikimbie tu kazi yoyote tu umesikia umeitiwa tu, then without even reading the contract there. What does it say? What are you really actually going to do? And also also the government, you have a responsibility to protect your people. Yeah, because if you don't do it, your people will be exploited in these foreign countries. So I think up to this moment, thank you so much for choosing the Citizens Mic podcast. Until next time, please continue viewing, continue sharing this podcast so that now we can have so many people joining this conversation, because these are conversations that really matter. Good evening, good afternoon. My name is Tricia Wayua. Bye.